and somebody is already stomach full and somebody is hungry, and you want to treat both of them equally, you don't place a full bowl of payasam in front of both of them, right?
Yeah.
You give it to the person who's hungry.
Hello, dear listeners, and a very happy new year and decade to you. Hope your 2020 has been good so far. We at Team SASHA have gotten off to a great start to the year with our second episode of Voice the SASHA PoSHcast, your go-to podcast for all things posh. I am Shweta Bhat, your host, and in this episode, we will be talking about gender, sexual harassment, and the law. My guest for this theme is advocate, litigator, PoSH consultant, and Team SASHA member Sowmya Bhat. Sowmya is one of the founding members at SASHA and would like to describe herself as an advocate professing socially conscious lawyering. She has been practicing law in Bangalore since 1999. She has been litigating in courts, researching, and has been involved in legal activism in matters of gender and family law, property law, succession and inheritance laws, rights of the urban poor, and the marginalized communities. She has long-standing experience in legal awareness training and gender sensitization programs. She has also been providing committed services under the laws relating to sexual harassment at the workplace as an external member, trainer, and a legal advisor. Our conversation in this episode delved deep into the topic and covered many wide themes, including gender identities, gender-based harassment and violence, intersectionality, and how organizations can be more inclusive. In fact, we went so deep, we made this interview a two-parter. Here's the first part of our discussion on gender harassment and the law. Welcome, Sowmya, to Voice the SASHA PoSHcast. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you.
So tell me about your experience working in this field. You worked as a litigator, as an advocate, as a consultant, as a trainer. What's it been like?
In fact, it's been a pack of experiences of different kinds of experiments itself, if I can call it so. Because I taught for a year and then I litigated in the trial section with a very senior advocate. I did all kinds of banking, property, family, and primarily on civil side. I learned the basic things of law and basic, the professional tactics, as you can call it. And then I worked with this group called Alternative Law Forum, where I could connect politics of law and that of the society, and people's beliefs, and how does a parallel set of rules and norms that the society frames for itself works much more stronger than the law that's stated in the books itself, right? So that is where I got involved in a lot of activism and a lot of social issues, and how can we merge or rather work around with all these things and address people's issues, the real issues. It could be about property, it could be about family law, it could be about urban poor people, and women's issues, gender issues, and I started doing a lot of trainings and sensitization programs. It was during that time, and then after that I did research, writing under the law, and writing on various aspects of law. And that is when even before the law came into this, the Prevention of Sexual Harassment law came into existence in 2013. Even before that, I'd started working on the Vishaka guidelines, and so it was then that I had already started doing awareness programs on why we should have a system in place to handle all these things of sexual harassment at the workplace. So yes,
it sounds like a very diverse range of experiences you have had and growth you have had, Sowmya.
I guess I just wanted to experiment on different things. Probably it's also that I can't stick to one thing for too long. Maybe,
two sides of the
same coin. I guess.
So I think then that makes you the perfect person to talk about this episode's theme, which is why I reached out to you. It's about gender and how it relates to harassment and how that relates to the law. So one of the most common questions I'm asked, and a lot of Team SASHA members and other consultants are also asked, especially when we conduct trainings for employees, is the first thing they ask when they see the title of the act is, why is it only for women? Why is the law so gender specific? What about men? Is the first question that is asked. So I would like to put that question across to you. Why do you think the law is gender specific? Or because you worked on Vishaka as well, so you have been with this law, the act, the bill, everything from its inception and conception. So why? What were they thinking when they made the law gender specific? Do you think?
So. The answer is not a straightforward answer. I think we have to understand the whole concept or the issue in hand from various angles, from how society perceives gender, or how deeply ingrained the kind of discrimination, not just discrimination, the roles that are prescribed for different people, which is so. This is the parallel law that I was talking about, right? This is all in our heads. This is the kind of things that we are that we grow up with, of how women should behave, how men should behave, and how women of a particular community should behave, and or how educated women should behave, how an agriculturist woman should behave. So I guess there are so many of these kind of parallel laws that are there, or norms that societies follow, which makes it very difficult. That is on one hand. But if you look at the discrimination and the violence itself against one particular gender, and to start off, it is not man versus woman. In fact, even if we see the whole law as protection of women against sexual harassment, it is not about man versus woman. We are not trying to say that. We are trying to say that women, because of the gender roles that they are prescribed and brought up with, it is so deeply ingrained in all our minds and hearts, so much so that we need to address it as an issue, and it is so rampant. If you actually look at the kind of sexual harassment or even the violence that you see against women, this is completely based on gender. This is completely based on this idea of what a woman should be like. That is so deeply ingrained us. And when a woman or anybody tries to overcome or transgress this boundaries, then they are attacked, or they're abused. There's so much of aggression. There's so much of violence that happens in various ways, in very subtle ways, in very expressed ways as well. So only the expressed ways, when something like rape or burning, very extreme cases happen, it shakes us. But we fail to understand that there are little things, starting from how much do you educate a woman, how much do you allow her in courts to work and choose her field of work, or choose her partner, all of these things. If you see, and also, not to mention, when we are saying protection of women against sexual violence, we are not trying to say that men don't undergo sexual violence or sexual harassment. What we are trying to say is that it's so rampant that it needs a specific address. It needs a specific tackling. So we need to kind of educate ourselves and train ourselves to look at the fact that women are being targeted because they are women.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it is so deep rooted.
Yeah.
What we also kind of sometimes do not or fail to recognize is that the sexual harassment, as defined under this law, is not just about sexual violence, or it's not about sexual abuse, or it's not just apparent sexual abuse or molestation. It's much more subtler kind of harassment than that as well. It could be gestural, it could be verbal, it could be the way one is treated. But if the aggrieved woman feels that her personal space is violated and she feels vulnerable, then it's called as sexual harassment. So a bad gaze, a stare, a touch, unwarranted comment, sharing of jokes that I was not comfortable with, all of this can amount to, and this is in fact gender discrimination turning over to some kind of harassment. This is a sort of control that people have on women to control them. It's
so it's interesting that you mentioned discrimination, crossing over to harassment. Because these subtle instances that you have mentioned, which also is harassment, but a lot of and especially men ask, when we talk about such behaviors, they say, but how is this harassment?
Yes.
Because their personal perception and experience of invasion of personal space doesn't involve, for example, making incessant jokes which are borderline vulgar. For them it is annoying, but for a woman it might feel like a serious invasion, or ways of invasion. So I think, does sexual harassment then is the experience of sexual harassment also gendered that way, do you think?
Actually, I'm not. I wouldn't go to that kind of an extent to say it is experiences itself could be gendered, but the treatment is certainly gendered. So this was a very similar question was asked to me in a training last time. So if when can I share a vulgar joke? With whom can I share a vulgar joke? Right? So some people are okay with it, some people are not okay with it. So how do I know that somebody is uncomfortable with it? Right? So I kind of turned the question around and I asked him, when would you share a vulgar joke? And with whom would you share a vulgar joke? You tell me, when would you share? When would you feel comfortable sharing a vulgar joke? With whom? So he said, it's with somebody whom I know that they're okay, or they have laughed to a similar joke earlier, or they have kind of shared a similar joke in a group earlier, and I know that it's not personally kind of attacking them, right? So if you're a responsible person, what can be offensive to another, or what is unwelcome by another. So don't do anything that you're not sure that the other person is comfortable with. That's the only thing. But when it comes to women, I think I think even men would feel similarly invaded, or maybe if the personal space kind of attacked, if some sort of vulgar joke is shared with them that they feel uncomfortable with. I'm sure even men feel the same way, but it's done to women because you see lesser women coming out, or even if you see a workspace or even a post-graduation level college, you see only 20% women at the most, right? In most industries. And certainly there is that, you're attacking somebody's position, or you're attacking somebody's comfort levels. Somebody is yet to feel one amongst you and you are sharing some sort of a joke or some sort of a comment, which can put them to discomfort. This personal space is something that is unique to all of us, and I'm sure it is different from person to person, and not necessarily all women feel the same way, all men feel the same way. All of us feel differently, but we fail to understand that each one of us personal space could be different, is what I feel. But that's not something that people are used to, and so they think cracking a vulgar joke is cool, or sometimes that is also, but they don't really realize that it is putting them to discomfort.
Yeah, true. And we haven't, this is about, it's such a complex issue with cis men and cis women. We haven't even touched the topic of, even trans, the third gender isn't included in the law. And we know that third gender is especially vulnerable to sexual exploitation and violence. Right? So how do you see this law and working with, for example, the trans bill and inclusion of other gender identities in the law and in policies that organizations can have?
There are, I wouldn't want to even get into the trans bill because there are so many issues and aspects. And there are many issues that are being raised with that. And even before going into the law, I think it is very, very important to address all these issues at a personal level, at organizational levels, as to how would we want to make a space inclusive, or how would we want to, yes, there is a third gender, but I also believe that in men or in women, there are different kinds of men and different kinds of women. Even one of the research points out to a thing that people can be divided across 6 genders. Because we're all I think bit of male and bit of female, right?
So it's spectrum,
yes, and it's all about how do we make everyone be a part of what we are, be it an organization, be it an institution, a workplace, or whatever it is, at home. How do we make everybody be a part of what we are is something that I think as a society now we need to be thinking about. That's what this law, in fact, these Article 15, Article 14 of the Constitution talks about right to equality, everybody being treated equal. But Article 15 says no discrimination shall be made on the basis of caste, creed, sex and color. But subclause of Article 15 says discrimination law can make certain specific laws, or the law, there could be specific laws that will address the issues of discrimination, so that it will sound like a discriminatory law, because you're saying right for the protection of women, protecting women against domestic violence, or protecting women against sexual harassment at the workplace. This might in itself look like discrimination, but it is not. It is trying to bring a particular gender which has been subjected to oppression and violence for generations together. We are addressing that to bring them to a space of empowerment where they can question these kinds of things.
And this is a very good segue into one of the most I would say debated topics,
right?
The concept of equity versus equality,
right?
Because what you said is about how in the law it says all persons must be treated equally,
right.
And so one of the questions that I have been asked is that if everybody is different, right, and everybody must be treated equally, then why have a law that doesn't include everyone? If you are saying, then why only have a law for women?
Right.
And then I have explained, how, what is the difference, equity versus equality. But I would love to hear your take on how to make it, so if the law is for a particular population that is vulnerable, and all employees in an organization or a higher education institution are treated equal, how do you bring equity into it? How do you explain the concept of equity there?
So it's a difficult, it's a very complex, and to bring to reality, it's very complex. To understand, when you're talking about equity and equality, we can talk about equity and equality, but when you're actually doing it, then that's a challenge of law also, right? So if somebody has been not allowed to educate oneself or go out and work and not read and write, but to just stay at home and cook and clean your home, is one set of people. And there are another set of people who have been studying, reading up everything, going out and working, and having, bringing money home, controlling all property stuff on the other. And treating both of them equally is not equality, it's not equity.
Yes.
Equity is when you allow, or when you make space for this set of people for all these generations have not been able to study. You provide a platform for them to say that, hey, come, read and go out and work. And so for that you need to push them. You don't need to push the people who are already having it, right? So I mean, somebody is already stomach full and somebody is hungry, and you want to treat both of them equally. You don't place a full bowl of payasam in front of both of them, right? Yeah. You give it to the person who's hungry. Yes. Right? You keep it. So that's the kind of to put it in a very simplistic way, I guess, but it's a very difficult thing. So if a class of people are being oppressed and attacked and are being treated with a lot of discrimination for generations together, it's not enough to say, okay, now you can come and study. Now nobody will beat you up. There's a requirement of much more to do that. It's important to tell them that, look, for generations you have been treated that way, and if you continue to be treated that way, that amounts to harassment. So domestic violence, if you look at even the bare statistics of violence against women, 25% of the kind of violence that a woman faces is from her own family members. So this is the kind of gender inequality or gender discrimination that we're talking about. So this still continues. And the same thing is transferred to a workplace where she is working. So women are not being paid equal. They're not given equal opportunities for various reasons, and after 70-80 years you find even in the public sectors, like some of my clients with whom I've been working, you see a person at the director level after 70 years of them coming into existence, right? So that doesn't mean that women are not capable. Women were not allowed to. So there is a need. So the concept of equity is a sense of fairness with which you treat. And when you talk about fairness, it also means that making right whatever wrongs have happened earlier. So how do we make it right? It's not enough to say now all of you will be treated equally. It is much more important to say that if this happens to you, this is called abuse, and this is what you can do about it. So I guess that's where
I think I couldn't have better explained that. And that was part 1 of our conversation on gender and PoSH law. Hope you enjoyed it and learned from it. We also got in touch with Aparna Mittal, the founder of Samana Center for Gender Policy and Law, to give us her 2 cents on making workplaces inclusive for all gender identities. Here's what Aparna had to say.
Hi, this is Aparna Mittal. I am the founder of Samana Center for Gender Policy and Law. I think with more and more companies becoming inclusive for the members of the LGBT community, it is important to ensure that there is zero tolerance for any kind of harassment, including sexual harassment at the workplace. And one key step in this direction is to ensure that your PoSH policy is gender neutral, and that the benefit of the policy, which is prevention, prohibition and redressal of sexual harassment at the workplace, is available to all persons irrespective of their gender or sexual orientation.
In the next part, Sowmya and I talk about same-sex harassment, normalization of discrimination, and a unique way to foster truly inclusive and empathetic workplaces. In the meanwhile, do write to us with your queries and inputs at voice@sashaindia.com or get in touch with the external member of your internal committee. This is Shweta Bhat, your host, signing off until next time. And remember, progress needs our efforts in prevention and protection.